Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar organized by CxO Global Forum and Codebase Tech on payment solutions. Now, CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe. We take massive pride in contributing to the knowledge economy with our league of extraordinary ladies and gentlemen who are not only domain experts but key thought leaders who've made a considerable amount of difference in the fields that they're working in. Now, Codebase Technologies is our implementing partners for this particular event, and we've been collaborating strategically on earlier webinars and white papers as well, and they are responsible for a lot of what goes on behind the scenes for some revolution that has been happening in Pakistan and other countries as well, especially in terms of fintech. So they are the people who are responsible for implementing the Roshan digital accounts in many countries, including Pakistan. So we're going to begin with our extraordinary guest today. So we're going to have a panel discussion about payment solutions. Now, why we chose this topic was that post-pandemic COVID-19, we've all seen that there has been a lot of change. Now, the change isn't just in mindset or our routines or how we meet, greet people, how we work, but also how transactions happen. And for that, payment solutions play a vital role in how even cash rich economies like Pakistan have had to super evolve, not just evolve at a normal pace, but super evolve themselves. And anybody who does not incorporate within these new solutions that are available will definitely be left behind. So, we wanted to discuss this very important topic for this particular webinar. So we called our team of experts, and for this particular panel discussion and webinar that we have. So starting off from Blinq, we've got Mr. Hasan Rahim. We'll leave the formal introductions later on, and then we've got Mr. Tamer, who is joining us from Codebase Tech. He's the managing director at CVT. Then we've got Mr. Omar Moeen Malik. He's the head of digital wallets and payments at Telenor Microfinance Bank Limited, Easy Pesa. We're going to also be joined by Mr. Saqib Kazmi, who's going to be joining us shortly. So let me start with the first question. Now, Mr. Omar Moeen Malik, and to you, sir. So you have been a key stakeholder in this whole, implementation of payment solutions and so on and so forth. So how is fintech bringing a revolution in a cash-rich economy like Pakistan?
Thank you, Anza. So, I think the revolution is not here yet, although we are very well poised for it. And in the years to come, inshallah, you'll see a lot more happening. But just to give you some figures and numbers, top of my mind, um, we when we talk about financial services or formal financial services in Pakistan, there are approximately between 50 to 60 million bank accounts in the country. And the number of unique users who operate these bank accounts is estimated to be no more than 25 to 30 million. Uh, Certain people have multiple bank accounts. The adult population in the country is standing at about 120 million. So um, uh, it's a fact that the majority of the Pakistani adults are outside of the formal financial framework. All the transactions that they're doing are informal transactions, be it fund transfers or lending or borrowing, savings, etc. Everything. So the idea again was that mobile phones have such a have had such a huge growth in Pakistan. I mean, that's if you talk about the revolution, that's the only revolution that I've actually seen with my eyes. That in a matter of 10 years, we've seen the number of smartphone users or mobile phone users grow exponentially to 160, 170 million SIMs being issued in the country today. We estimate that about 100 million unique users in Pakistan have mobile phones. So what we are trying to do is leverage on that fact that these guys now have the devices, the technologies in their hands that can enable them to do financial transactions as well. They really don't have to be restricted to the traditional brick and mortar framework that we had to do any financial transaction. And then at Easy Pesa, our vision is that using technology and then collaboration, we believe that we can not only bring more people into the formal financial net, but we can also significantly improve the overall economy of Pakistan.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that knowledge. Now, Tamer, would you like to elaborate a little more on this? Because, when we spoke about payment solutions, generally what came to mind were ACH payments, for example, like electronic debit and credit transfers, or, like merchant accounts with inbuilt credit or debit cards. And then came the era of payment gateways and billing aggregators and so on and so forth. So, how do you see fintech bringing about a revolution? What exactly has happened, and
See,
what are the different types available?
Uh, as our brother Omar rightfully said, there are certain numbers that show the industry and what's happening there. So I'm new to the Pakistan market, and I've been taking a closer look with my team, and we've been having a discussion the past couple of weeks. See, introducing cashless initiatives by itself is something that is being pushed by the fintechs, correct? And then if the regulators and the regulatory is going into a stable mode for both local and international setups, that would definitely give the country a longer push. I read some facts and numbers where unbanked in Pakistan is above 70%, and these unbanked population, if they are driven towards that mobile penetration that is getting higher year on year, and I've seen the number; they're quite impressive. Probably yes, the whole COVID situation had pushed people towards that, but the main elements are we're looking at more than 70% of the population that is unbanked. There's a big opportunity there. The regulator is pushing and giving the right ammunition for fintechs, and then the banks are opening their minds, and they're not being rigid anymore, and they're looking at more collaboration with those fintechs. This is a recipe of success in my humble opinion. And then if you include Pakistan and the economy to participate on a global stage, if you like, a digital economy forum, this is where you're bringing Pakistan to a new era of payments, and fintechs will definitely continue the revolution as you go along, especially that it's a rich economy with the likes of Pakistan.
Absolutely, I agree. Now, coming to Mr. Hassan Rahim, sir, so what exactly are payment solutions? So, if we talk about the infrastructure, how do they work? We spoke about giving financial inclusion as well. So, you're making people who don't even own bank accounts, giving them that kind of liberty to sort of transact without actually using cash. So, would you like to elaborate a little more about what payment solutions are and the different types that are available?
Yes, so we actually started the bill and payment aggregation space back in 2018, where we were trying to onboard banks so we have interoperability and giving consumers the convenience to pay from the banking app they have an account with. So at the moment, we are strategically aligned with OneLink, NIFT apps, uh, where we have a partner network of 24 banks, and customers at the moment, since we have onboarded a number of merchants in different verticals, so we have seen a lot of payments coming through TCS as well. Because again, since it's a predominant fact that our country is a cash rich economy, since again a lot of payments are coming on the TCS counters, and yes, the COVID has pushed the online payment trends a lot. 1.2 billion payments have been made in the year 2020. So there has been a 90% surge in the online payments. And whereas merchant acquisition is concerned, we have surpassed 1,000 billers in the year 2020, where as in 2019, we were standing at 530 merchants. So yes, on the merchant side, we are onboarding at a very good pace. But as Omar and Moeen said, that the revolution is yet to take place, because given the statistics that we have from the State Bank of Pakistan, that we have like 80% mobile penetration in Pakistan, and yet the bank accounts we have are just 55 million. That is again 70% of the population is unbanked. So the payment solutions aligned with the partner banks is incentivizing the end user to make an online transaction. So this is where I see payment solutions coming along.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Omar Moeen Malik, so what factors should one consider when choosing the right payment solution for themselves? Now, I'm talking in terms of banks and talking in terms of merchants, even for consumers. So, what are the factors that one should look for? Like, should I go for Stripe or PayPal or go for a local option? What all do we keep in mind?
So I think a deep pros and cons analysis for every payment solution out there is very important for any merchant who's going ahead to select a payment gateway for that matter, or any payment solution for that matter. You have to have a very clear understanding of who your customers are, whether they're here in Pakistan or whether they're abroad. What sort of payment means do they have? So let me just give you an example. We started working with Pakistan Railways maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when they did an RFQ for digitizing their payment collection process. Prior to that, anybody who wanted to buy a ticket, a railway ticket, had to actually physically go to a railway station and make payments over there using cash. Pakistan Railways is basically the sole entity that runs trains all over Pakistan, and they ferry something like close to about 50 million people, or 50 million passengers. Let me just say, these are not unique people, but 50 million passengers a year. That's a huge number. That's about quarter of the total Pakistani population. So when we started working with them about 4 or 5 years ago, they did an RFQ. They were looking for digital payment solutions. They realized that the bulk of their customers were actually not banked. They realized that the bulk of the customers didn't have a debit card or a credit card to begin with. So it's very important to understand who your customer base is, and then accordingly come up or choose the payment solution that is best suited for your customers. And we're very happy that Pakistan Railways chose us, because even though there are not a lot of wallets in the country, even today in 2021, there are not a lot of people using mobile wallets. I think on a unique basis, I think there are no more than 15 million or 20 million. But the fact that we had 75,000 shops across Pakistan where a customer could walk into, regardless of the time. These shops are open till late at night, they're open on weekends, and a customer could actually book a ticket and make a payment right there and then. That was a crucial need for somebody like Pakistan Railways. So I think every merchant really needs to look at their customer base, what they're selling, what the average ticket size is going to be, how my customers can pay for these payments, and then accordingly choose the best solution out there. For example, if I was selling a product exclusively to people outside of Pakistan, I would focus more towards either Visa or Mastercards, or even PayPal, Stripe, etc., etc.
Right, sir. Mr. Tamer, do you have something to add there? Because you have been the technology implementing partners for many fintech companies and payment solutions. Tamer, are you there with us? Right. Meanwhile, he connects. We've been joined by Mr. Saqib Kazmi. Sir, we were talking about payment solutions. Thank you very much. Mr. Saqib Kazmi is the CEO of QuickPay. So, your take on how does one choose the right kind of payment solution? Sir, you need to unmute your mic. Sir, you need to unmute your mic. Just a second. Let me try and help you out there. Mr. Saqib, I would urge you to unmute yourself before you talk. Right. Sir, I would urge you to unmute your mic, and when you're done, no, we can't hear you, sir. Yes. Tamir, are you there on the line with us?
Yes, I'm sorry for that, as I got cut off. But basically, going back to what are the factors that should one consider when choosing the right payment solution? If we just need to simplify things, and everyone should look at four main things. Convenience is definitely a key factor. Reliability, stability, and most importantly is accessibility. I mean, I don't want to complicate and talk more than this, but whenever you look at the main factors, these are the main factors for anyone that is using or should consider when they choose the right payment solution.
Right, sir. Thank you. Mr. Saqib, are you there back with us? Yes, you've unmuted yourself successfully.
No, actually, I joined from two places, so
Right.
I got confused. So as Ali Bhai said, Omar Bhai said that payment business is something that we have to see and understand what the merchant requirement is. And like he actually explained the business case of railway, I think it proves right to our QuickPay journey as well when we started uh, onboarding different schools, whether they are a big chain of schools or an individual school running in a small vicinity. So they had different set of customers. They had different set of people paying fees from different areas and through different channels. So while enabling a school was necessary, it was vital that we understand that what is the real problem payers are facing while paying the fees. So we had to actually conduct few road shows on particular schools where we interacted with parents and asked them what is that the easiest way they think to pay the fees. And once we have that data with us, then we actually started enabling different sets of payment channels and payment terms with schools. And it is necessary that whether it's a school or an ISP or a real estate company, you need to understand their business requirement first before implementing or integrating with them, because getting a contract signed is very easy, but getting payments out of them digitally is the real challenge that every fintech actually faces. So when we started, normally our merchant conversion was around 4 to 5%. But when we started interacting with the customers, or what I would say the peers, uh, right now, today, without spending any marketing budget, just interacting with the customers directly, it has grown up like 20 to 25% per merchant.
Amazing. Right. Thank you, sir, for
So
sharing that.
that's the importance of on-ground activity that we all should do.
Absolutely. We'll come back to you later. But Mr. Hassan Rahim, what I want to know is that Blink in particular isn't just like any other payment solution. You guys are known to be like a billing aggregator. You provide end-to-end digital bill presentment, and it's not payment collections and settlement and all of that. Now, what thought process did you have in mind, and how does a billing aggregator or billing presenter differentiate itself from the other payment solutions that are available?
So basically, we are both a bill and a payment aggregator. So initially, we were having one offering, and at the moment, we have aggregated all the payment offerings that are available in the market. So which other fintechs are also offering at the same time. So we allow merchants to collect payments from alternate delivery channels of partner banks. We allow them to collect payments from Visa and Mastercard payment schemes. We are also enabling them to collect account pull payment, which is a recent payment method introduced by NIFT and apps. So we have aggregated all these payment methods under one roof, and it gets easier for the merchant that under in one integration he gets all the payment options. The entire idea is to offer them a comprehensive payment mix so that their customers can make a payment where they are comfortable from.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Omar Moeen Malik, Hassan has pointed out one of the most important factors um, where the customer has ease of access, right? Now, we keep hearing about, with regards to payment solutions, you need to improve the customer experience. And, there's a lot of, emphasis on the word experience. So, customer experience, it's become the new catchphrase. How important is the customer experience with regards to a payment solution?
Very important. Um, so it depends. I mean, on certain merchants, even today, when you go and try to make a payment over there, if the journey involves multiple clicks or hops or multiple OTPs, every little step is actually a step in the funnel where the customers drop off. So, um, how seamless can you have your overall payment experience is actually very, very important for the customers at least. Because there will come a time where payments will become ubiquitous, right? And customers will have the luxury of choosing which payment method they want to use on a particular merchant. Today, a merchant may be limited to say maybe one or two payment gateways or payment solutions, but there will be a time where customers and this is of course thanks to the regulations issued by the State Bank of Pakistan, thanks to the multiple PPSPs and EMIs which are coming into the market. The idea is that they will compete with each other, and how they differentiate with each other is based on one of the factors is going to be customer experience. What's the best customer? What's the most delightful customer experience that you can serve? Um, Customer experience is in my opinion one of the most critical aspects of any financial service, be it payments, be it remittance, be it any other financial product, because what we are trying to do over here is move customers away from cash. Cash is very much predominant in Pakistan, and whether we like it or not, it is also one of the easiest payment instrument to use. It's also one of the most convenient payment instrument. It's one of the most reliable payment instruments. It's one of the most secure. I mean, you have cash in your hand. Nobody's going to take it away, unless you're traveling in Karachi. But uh, that is what we're competing with. And that is exactly then whatever product is designed or whatever solution is designed has to compete with cash. That's in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Right, sir. Now, Tamir, we spoke about the customer experience. Do you agree with Mr. Omar Moeen Malik and what he said that in terms of payment solutions, the customer experience is probably the most important part? What all uh, do you keep in mind when designing a payment solution and the customer experience aspect of things? And is customer experience that factor which will give one payment solution the edge over another?
No, for sure. I definitely agree all the way. I mean, when you design and you do that customer experience in general, that leads to few things, right? So it leads to customer loyalty. It leads to where the customer would stick longer and you would retain him longer. If he's satisfied, then those conversion rates that we look at will definitely increase as we go along. See, I read a few things the other day, and they said with people used to leave, let's say, their bank for a better car loan or a better housing loan. Today, what we're looking at, the new generation that's entering the market and is using those mobile apps, they're basically leaving one financial institution for the other just for the sake of a better experience, a better app that would make their life faster and easier. So for sure, whenever we design that, we look at how the conversion rate is going to be picked up, and we look at how people are going to interact as users ourselves. Before we sell or before we design, we are actual users. So we look at those pain points, and we look at the behavior and what people are actually looking for. So definitely, I do agree, and I add on top of what the other colleagues are saying.
Right. Now, Mr. Saqib, I'd like to hear your take on the customer experience as well. And then also highlight the fact that, we know QuickPay has been very successful. But have you heard of, you know, your merchants or your customers in particular made claims that it has led to increased sales as well? Because one of the advantages of implementing payment solutions is that it is a perception that it increases sales over time.
Uh, yes, about the customer experience. Uh, Let me share a real story. Uh, we were beginners, and most of the banks were reluctant to take us on board because of the lower transaction volume in the start. So QuickPay was placed somewhere around, if you say, in a big journey on the fifth or sixth place in the bill payment space. So obviously we had to uh, educate our clients a little differently because we were placed on the background of mobile apps and internet banking channels. So, but when the transaction volume increases, so they start showing us in a better uh, uh, place where customers can easily find quick pay. So I would like Mizan took the journey first, and they actually uh, ex- expanded our merchants on their mobile app, and that made a huge amount of difference as we witnessed that the number of transactions actually grew 100% from previous month to the month where Mizan implemented the expansion of merchant list. And same goes with Easy Pesa. And Easy Pesa did it on the next level, actually, thanks to Omar Shah. They actually created categories of quick pay clients, whether it was real estate or leisure clubs or ISPs. And some of them were actually already created in the Easy Pesa app, but they made sure that our merchants are categorized in the right place. And today, almost communicated every month with Innovarge. And today, Easy Pesa is leading the quick pay payment space when it comes to merchant payments. So, all thanks to Umar. But yes, that shows that how customer journey is important, and how it can increase payments in different categories. So, at QuickPay, we are catering different kind of merchants, from shipping terminal to schools to ISPs to housing societies and microfinance banks as well. So, yes, customer journey does matter a lot.
Right, sir.
What was your second question?
So my second question was about the fact that have you in your real life examples, because a lot of, I'm sure a lot of merchants are employing your solutions. Have you had the experience of increased sales, the claim of increased sales? Because one of the key arguments that go in the favor of implementing payment solutions is that there are increased revenue and increased sales for merchants in particular.
Yeah, we have uh, one or two examples to be specific in the ISP world. Uh, Couple of ISPs actually contacted us and told us that because of the quick pay uh, leverage on banks, on all the banks, client intakes have increased because the other ISP, which was actually in that vicinity, and it's a better one also, do not have such kind of payment solution. It only provides credit card and debit card facility. So yes, these are the instances because uh, credit card and debit card payments are uh, not that if you see the volume wise, it's not that huge in Pakistan, unfortunately. But if you compare it with the banking app, then I think the difference between credit card and debit card payments on the internet versus banking app was huge. So yes, we have an example from ISP and one or two schools during COVID program.
Right, sir. Now, Mr. Hassan Rahim, now one of the other arguments that go in the favor of payment solutions is reduced transaction costs. And I was reading a report by McKinsey which said that in the long run, let's say in the next 10 years or so, and I quote, e-payment could save both individuals and businesses hundreds to thousands of dollars in transaction fees. Do you agree it could be possible in an economy like Pakistan?
Yes, it's possible because ever since the payment solutions and the payment aggregation services have been introduced, the adoption has not been much. As earlier said by Saqib as well, that the conversion rate is 20%, and which is also after putting in marketing efforts. On an average, the digital adoption or the uptake of payments is nearly 5 to 10%. So yes, the transaction cost, I believe, should be very low to encourage or introduce digital payments. Uh, it depends on which payment solution is being offered to the merchant. If I talk about the e-commerce businesses, so there the cost is a big concern for the merchants because the pricing model is based on MDR. Whereas in for recurring payments, let's say for any housing scheme or for schools where there are recurring payments, most of the payments are being made by parents through banking channels. There we have a tiered based pricing. So, as an industry, we need to come to a common term where we can have a standardized pricing for all the banking channels so that we can, increase the quantum of digital payments. We have also seen in COVID as well, last year from March onwards, when State Bank took the initiative of, taking no charges on IBFTs. So that has also resulted in the uptake of payments, and it has also uh, made customers financially literate to make or to complete a transaction. So
Right.
pricing is a very important concern from the merchant and on the customer aspect as well.
Right. Now, Mr. Omar Moeen Malik, so my next question is something that's a bit controversial to many people, because I see some questions from the audience here as well, and everyone, sort of 90% of the people want to know, will the ease and accessibility of payment solutions render conventional banking solutions obsolete? So, will we not be seeing any Visas or MasterCards or IBFTs in the future?
I think it's too early to even think or conceive about something of that sort. I mean, banks have still have a lot of strengths with their brick and mortar setups, with their brand names and with the transactions and the different products that they offer. However, we do see that individuals, for convenience, for pricing or whatever reasons, they are choosing to move towards digital payment solutions and fintech solutions offered like the business cases that EasyPaisa offers for that matter. Um, Customer onboarding processes, as we talked about earlier, is much more simplified. I mean, just go to any bank branch and try to open a bank account today, and you'll
That's
understand
what I
how.
was saying. So it's a process and a half. So a lot of documentation is required, a lot of verification is required. Whereas if you are to receive a payment through, let's say, EasyPesa or Blink or something, it just happens in the blink of a moment. Even with digital wallets, for that matter. Mr. Tamer, do you have an alternate opinion on this? Do you think that payment solutions will render conventional banking solutions obsolete in the future?
See, in general, the answer is 100%. If the current banking solutions do not adapt and collaborate or have the collaboration mindset to upscale their current technology stacks, yes, it will go obsolete, and you're gonna have to compete with fintechs anyway, because they're coming and they're gonna start stealing that because they're more agile, they're faster, and they're giving amazing services. So yes, I mean we could see that happening, and I was reading an article the other day saying what's gonna happen to banks in 5 to 10 years, and you'd see all these mixed up opinions. Either banks will start taking over other banks, or the banks, if they don't move fast in that direction, definitely they will go on an obsolete mode. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Now, Mr. Saqib, so we know that with payment solutions, a lot of people who don't own bank accounts or do not have access to conventional banking services, um, they become financially inclusive. Now, how exactly can payment solutions contribute towards this financial inclusion? And we still have very, very few people, Mr. Hassan, like you quoted, I think only 5% people who are using these payment solutions. In emerging economies like Pakistan, how do you feel we can increase uh, the amount of people using these solutions?
While necessary that we should acquire new customers, uh, when we started working on QuickPay, we most of the people with bank accounts. So
So, there seems to be a problem with your mic. Could you kindly revise it, and I'll come back to you in a moment. Uh, yes, Mr. Hassan, your take on the same. Right, Mr. Hassan.
Yes. Can you please repeat the question?
So my question to you was, how can payment solutions contribute towards financial inclusion, and how can this narrative be addressed or countered, where more and more people will come into, uh, that flexibility of using, financial and payment solutions?
Yes, number one, because since we do not have, we have different user bases for different payment channels. So if we talk about internet banking or mobile banking, altogether we have around like 13 million users. So and 55, and we have 55 million bank accounts. So I think, in my view, the only way to uptake the digital payments is through merchant acquisition, because we do not have merchant acquisitions on the retail side. We don't see any digital payments on in the retail segment. uh, so I think as we go on with the merchant uptake, automatically the digital adoption will increase.
Right. Mr. Saqib, did you sort out your mic? Right, sir. So I think he has an issue with his connection. But moving on, Mr. Umar Moeen Malik. Now, one of the discouraging factors why a lot of people still trust conventional banking over payment solutions is obviously the security concerns, because with these e-payment solutions, yes, there is encryption. Yes, I mean, there are claims of them being safe, but people still feel that they're vulnerable to hacking and phishing and so on and so forth. Now, what are some of the risks that are evident with using payment solutions?
Um, so I think just about every commercial bank that you look to in Pakistan, they have taken pretty strong measures to counter these problems, as you mentioned, hacking, phishing, um, fraud detection, etc. And nearly everybody has a decent risk management solution deployed on their premises. I think it's only a matter of time. And for customers really to try out these solutions first before making up their minds regarding fraud or anything else for that matter. At Easy Pesa, I mean, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've invested close to about $25 million into our technology stack. I don't know if any bank in Pakistan has come close to that. So these are factors, and I think Tamer mentioned very rightly early on. The investment in technology is what is going to be driving everything going forward. Um, you talk about players like Google and Facebook and whatnot. Uh, why are they so far ahead? It's not just the features or the products that they came up with, but their continued and repeated investment into technologies. That is what defines an IT company today, regardless of what that IT company does. That IT company, and you see that in just about every uh, segment or every industry for that matter, even within medicine, the companies which are surging ahead, they're the ones who've actually invested in technology. You look at education, um, you know, you look at communication, you look at financial services. So technology investment is the key, is the basic first step towards later things. There are banks in Pakistan, however, which have not invested a whole lot, and their customers compared to other customers are maybe at a slightly higher risk when it comes to fraud, and it does happen, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But then it's up to the customers to basically, just really evaluate the services that they're using, and other options in the market. That's our stance.
Right. So when we're talking about security concerns, we've seen, two-factor authentication and pins being sent and everything. But when you look at the international market, we do see that now there is a trend of moving towards, let's say, greater verification, like superior identity verification measures, like for instance, biometrics or facial recognition. Um, and I think that sort of like builds in to additional layers of security. How far are we from such security measures?
I think not very far, and I think the progress that we made in the last couple of years has been tremendous. So if you remember, um, up till maybe 4 or 5 years ago, all the mobile SIMs in the market were not even biometrically verified.
Right.
Up to maybe 2 or 3 years ago, all the bank accounts in the market were not biometrically verified. But this is a tremendous facility available from NADRA, which is our government database for all Pakistanis. And then slowly and steadily, we saw that every industry started picking up this biometric database and started integrating with it for security purposes, for customer KYC purposes, enhanced due diligence purposes. Uh, and now what we are discussing with NADRA is, of course, advanced biometrics, things like facial recognition, which is something that they are working on as well. So when they start capturing facial recognition for all the customers in Pakistan and exposing those APIs to not just fintech players, but different industries, I think we will be in a much, much better position. But even without relying on NADRA, for example, what we've done at our end is we've deployed a state-of-the-art platform, which captures the device fingerprint. So there are 150 variables that we capture of a device whenever a customer is logging into EasyPesa. And then out of these 150 variables, we detect, how many variables are changing over time, and we have a very sophisticated risk engine that flags any um, any access which we believe should be investigated. And that is where we can actually limit transactions or restrict transactions. These are very, very advanced, very expensive platforms, and they're
Yes.
available in the market. But it's up to the banks to really invest and have them deployed for their custom security.
Right. Tamer, I think you'll be able to, because you at CBT do give offer a lot of solutions from what I've read, which have built-in security measures and features. What is your take on this?
Without going into technical details and definitely investing in the right technology and the right security, the way I look at it, how evident is using, from a risk perspective, using a payment solution is the operational risk, if you like, Anza. And, this is between providers and the consumers. The risk is there for both parties. And, more specifically, when you look at the technology failure, that's a disaster. You need to look at that aspect. Human errors is one of them. And, the most that we've seen is the intentional wrongdoing. So jumping into another aspect, which is the liquidity risk, customers cannot access their funds. That's a big problem when a run on bank happens, or that run on bank could lead into run on telco, or even worse, a run on an agent network. So this, of course, is very market specific when it happens. But when you look at those risks and you want to weigh them, and when you're looking at the technology and looking at the security aspects, one cannot not take these aspects into consideration because they are definitely major.
Right. Absolutely. Uh, Mr. Saqib, I think there seems to be an issue with your connection. Can you hear us, sir? Sir, I would encourage you to reconnect. Apologies, but seems to be a connection lag at your end. Moving on, Mr. Hassan Rahim. Now, one of the other concerning factors is the fact that disputed transactions are a very big area which sort of discourage people, not just your end users, but also merchants from going for payment solutions, because they keep obviously thinking about the fact that if there's a person who's not using a traditional banking channel, uh, someone that performed the transaction, it can be difficult to win claims and receive refunds and so on and so forth. And that is why most of the merchants are discouraged. How do you at Blink address this issue?
So yes, the very rightly said that has been issue for the merchant where there is a dispute. So since we are aligned with banks to acquire payment gateways, so if any dispute arises, so the merchants intimates us about that transaction, and the turnaround time that we currently have is around 5 to 7 working days. So yes, that is a lot of time. Being a customer myself, if I have a dispute, so at the moment the banks are working on it, since are we are not the we do not own the product. We have taken the product from the banks. So yes, we are working out on how we can cut down the turnaround time for the disputes.
Right, sir. Mr. Umar Moeen Malik, I'm sure there's a lot of dispute management at Easy Pesa. So, what are the areas that we need to work on?
Well, for closed loop transactions that we have on our platform, there's very little dispute management. There's absolutely no dispute management because everything is all happening on our platform. The problem arises when we're integrated with our third parties and our partners. For example, OneLink. For example, the bill payment services that we have. Um, with the telcos that we're connected to for airtime sales and top-ups. That is where we face the majority of disputes coming in from customers. Um, we don't have a lot of disputes on Visa or MasterCard transactions either, because as international payment schemes, they are very mature with their platforms and their processes. Uh, but with the local payment schemes that we have, the local integrations that we have on IBFT, for example, we had a huge issue 5 weeks ago where the entire one-day switch went down for all banks for a couple of hours. And we're still trying to get transactions resolved that happened 5 weeks ago. Now these are customers with their money stuck with us for 5 weeks, and we're still trying to get clarity over the money. So I think in terms of these integrations that we have domestically, a lot more needs to be done. These technology solutions really need to be upgraded. They need to be standardized. They need to have a lot of fallback mechanisms, and the processes around these uh, payments need to be improved. But overall, like I said, for honest or closed loop payments, we really don't have any disputes coming over there.
Right, sir. That also leads me to my follow-up question, sir. Then, what policies do you feel that governments of emerging cash-rich economies like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka need to implement?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of steps that the government can do, and the central bank can do, and then other stakeholder departments can do. But I think then I'll step away from the initial questions that you asked. Look, the government is, I think they have a huge opportunity over here to fix a lot of the problems in this country by directly attacking cash and trying to minimize cash-based transactions. One of the very basic things that they could do, for example, is to make sure that all person-to-government payments are digitized and are available on all financial platforms. Um, for the longest time, all the government payments were kept kind of a closed loop on the National Bank of Pakistan's way,
Right.
and they were not enabled for the rest of the banking industry. And slowly and surely, we are seeing that these payments are being opening up, are opening up now, but there's still a long way to go. Secondly, what they can do is they really need to understand that in order to move away from cash, there have to be some incentives put in place. Now, what players like Easy Paisa and other fintechs are doing, and we talked about it over here also, to encourage customers to use our services, we actually end up using our equity in the form of marketing, in the form of incentives, etc., etc. So it's really the appetite that players like us have to invest in this market and grow this market. We really would have, I mean, if any support comes from the government channel, it would be tremendous in terms of giving some sort of incentives to either customers or merchants, where they see this incentive as a clear and a viable incentive to move away from cash. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck with cash for the longest period.
Right, sir. Now, Tamer, do you have something to add to what Mr. Omar Moeen said?
For sure. When you look at policies that governments need to adopt and work within one's country, is implement more robust, efficient regulatory checks that at the same time do not stifle the innovation process, right? So that needs to go and take its own way, but at the same time, you need to have that efficiency from a regulatory perspective. I think you need to enable institutions to offer more incentivized solutions, if you like. That goes a long way, in my humble opinion. Uh, you know, Fostering and pushing harder on operability via the open banking. So that's another aspect that
Yeah,
governments or
sure.
regulators should look at. Standardize the international standards within the fintech digital payment to transform Pakistan, if you like, to an international player. So taking that process all the way so Pakistan can be on the international arena. And finally, maybe leveraging on initiatives such as the KYC to
Right.
mature the industry's infrastructure and take it in a faster manner or faster track. So these are some of the points that I can think of when talking about policies and
Right.
what needs to be
Um,
pushed into market.
Also, since Codebase Tech has on ground experience with regards to this, a lot of businesses and even I know banks as well. Sometimes they're discouraged from employing such technology, fintech, and payment solutions because it's an increased cost to the business. Like Mr. Umar Moeen Malik said, there's marketing costs and this and that, and so it is that there is a burden because even enterprises who have to implement like in-house e-payment solutions, they must incur like additional costs in terms of procuring, installing, maintaining sophisticated payment security technologies as well. So do
For
you
sure.
think,
If yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
do you
No, for
think this
sure.
is
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, what I was going to say is, do you think this is a luxury only available to, let's say, certain big enterprises or big banks, or how do you see it?
In one way, it is, but it's not always the factor of how the cost is going to be. You see a lot of medium size or even smaller financial institutions that are willing to invest. But we've been seeing different approaches from different financial institutions. Do you want it to be hosted? Do you want it to be integrated? What comes with hosting and what comes with integration? So integration probably adds a lot of burden. Yes, from a management perspective, headcount, operational aspect, technology, and all that. So I think what we're seeing is different sizes of banks and different financial institutions are taking different measures. It's not a one-way stream. I would say, but definitely it does add a financial burden. And if you don't have anything on the other side that justifies that from a business case, it will fail altogether.
Right, absolutely. Now, Hassan, unfortunately, we're coming towards the end of today's webinar. And I would like for you guys to quickly sum up, what kind of innovation do you foresee in the future with respect to payment solutions? let's say in the near future, like 5 to 10 years?
Uh, Number one, I think the payment solution where the segment where I see a lot of potential is on the supply chain and on the retail side. So at the moment, we do not have any real-time retail payment gateways. So this is, uh, I think that we would be heading towards that. We have real-time retail payment gateways, so that the velocity of money gets increased, and eventually it leads to the increased economy, increased GDP. And also,
Right.
we do not have any cross-border transactions. We do not have any NFC-based payments on the retail side as well, where like you are going to Imtiaz or Nahi, you still are using POS transactions or card-based transactions.
Yeah,
So I believe we need to get out from that POS transaction to NFC-based transactions. This is where I see
foresee.
things going forward.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Omar Moeen Malik. So, what do you foresee in the future, next 5 to 10 years?
Um, I think what we see is, thanks to the multiple regulations recently issued by the state bank, we see a lot of new fintech players coming into Pakistan, because at the end of the day, the numbers, when you look at them, as Tamer mentioned earlier, they're very, very attractive.
Yeah,
Pakistan is the sixth largest country in the world. Everybody's dying to get into these markets. So you see a lot of new players coming in. You see EMIs, digital banks, PSO, PSPs, etc., etc. And then, of course, the non-regulated entities coming in to do whatever they can. Um, then my what I foresee is that we will have niche specific solutions coming up, where players will be focusing on working on a particular use case. For example, Hassan talked about merchant payments or merchant settlement solutions. So we'll see a lot of these niche specific solutions coming up. And there will be pretty tough competition over there as well, in terms of who can offer a better product, better usability, better pricing, better settlement, etc., etc. On the overall, the the fact that Pakistan is rapidly evolving in terms of smartphone penetration, and some of the cheapest, probably one of the cheapest markets for using data, and with the recent smartphone manufacturing which has started in this country, I foresee the number of customers using smartphones to grow very, very rapidly. And especially the youth segment, and the youngsters in Pakistan. You have this huge youth population which is just going to be crossing the age of 18, and they will be opting to use their first financial service. So it could be a bank account, it could be something like EasyPaisa or some other fintech. I see a lot of these customers choosing to go through the mobile route rather than the traditional brick and mortar setup that we have.
right, sir. Now, Mr. Tamer.
One of the things that I definitely foresee coming our way is artificial intelligence in supporting the payment ecosystem. And that is very exciting by itself. But definitely, artificial intelligence will come soon. I think blockchaining on a closed loop within the same country, what they call, I think, smart contacts for payments, could be one of them. And probably, in the past, when you used to do a payment, you had like 20 steps, right? And now they've been driven maybe to 5 steps or even less. So I think maybe, coming to the future in 5 or 10 years, 10 years, maybe it could just be just a click of a button, or just, tap fast, or just a mobile number that you can
Yeah.
click on. So, a lot of changes are definitely coming.
Thank you very much, Tamer. Thank you to all the gentlemen who joined us today. Thank you, CBT, for co-hosting this with us. Uh, been it has been a knowledge powerhouse today. Thank you for enlightening us with such thoughts and such information, because definitely you all are contributing to the knowledge economy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and keep us updated with your comments and feedback. If you want to learn more about the kind of work that Codebase Technologies or any of our speakers is doing, we've shared some links in the description. So we hope to hear from you. Please keep watching. Do tell us what you would like us to be talking about in the next webinars, and so on and so forth. Take good care of yourselves. Once again, keep watching and do subscribe to the channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Hamza.